Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me for another episode. This week, my guest is Shah from Lil Spaces, and we have so much to talk about. I feel like I've known Shah for, like a year, 2 years now, because she's been part of the Etsy Conversations community, but this is actually our first conversation. So Shah, thank you so much for being my guest and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jana. It's true, isn't it? Like, it feels like I know you already.
Yeah, I know. Because we talk online and you're one of those people where I tell people, oh yeah, so my friend from the internet, and they're like, you're what? Friend? So I'm glad to finally speak with you in person. So before we jump into it, can you just tell us a little bit about you?
Okay, so my name is Shah and I am from Canberra, Australia. So Canberra is actually the capital of Australia, though a lot of people think Sydney is. I think it's because of the bricks. I think Canberra has a population of about 300 and almost 400,000 people, so not huge. So I live with my partner, Mitch. My partner, I never know what to call him. Like, we're not married, but we're practically married. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, and we have a little girl, 3-year-old. Her name is Helena. So we currently live in a one little bedroom granny flat out the back of my mum's place while we are actually building our house. So Mitch is actually a builder and he's building our family home for us, and I often go out there and help as well. So we've been here for about a year. We're going to be here until probably the end of the year before the house is ready. So it's pretty cramped, but we don't have to pay rent. We're saving on rent. So that's fantastic, and we can put it towards our build.
Yeah, that's great. Earlier when Shah was explaining that to me, I said, you guys sound like an episode of, if you're in the US, you'll understand this, an episode of Fixer Upper, or, one of those HGTV shows where the couple builds their own house and then they go and live in it. So, and that actually gives a good background about what you make and sell.
Yeah, like I was saying to you, like, building and renovating and styling, all of that is one of my passions. So we actually do that a lot. We actually have an investment property that we have just renovated and styled, and it sold, I think, 2 days after it was listed before the first open home. So.
Whoa.
But I love it. We both love turning ugly ducklings into beautiful swans.
Yes, you really are an HGTV show in the making. And so now what do you make and sell?
So, Lil Spaces, I guess, I design, make and sell my own products, as well as because I've got a website as well, not just the Etsy shop. Mm-hmm. I also buy wholesale and resell other people's designer products as well. But in terms of our own products, it's art print, so contemporary children's art prints. So adults have bought them for themselves as well as cloud lights.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And just to be clear, Shah's handmade products are what she sells in her Etsy shop. And on the website is where she sells other products that are complementary to the ones she makes. I don't want anyone to get confused about about that. I just want to clarify that.
Thanto for clarifying that.
Yeah, because there's a lot of debate on Etsy about, did they really make that? Did they not? So I just want us to, set that out from the very beginning. Now, how did you first start making the cloud lights? What was the genesis of them?
maybe if I can start with the genesis of Lil Spaces, that might sort of help explain the cloud lights part of it.
Yeah.
So basically, I think it's probably, the story that you hear 1,000 times. I got pregnant. I used to be like in corporate. Well, I actually worked for government, and so really into career, loved my job, and then had kids or a child later in life, and everything changed kind of deal. So I don't know, like after I had Helena, I was just exploding with creativity and I needed an outlet. So I was looking at, it all started after creating her nursery. So it took me 6 months and to create this perfect nursery. I sourced every single piece from different places around the world and even some Etsy sellers as well. And it actually got featured in Apartment Therapy and a few of the blogs, and I won a little competition. So I was like, yeah, this is, what I'm meant to do kind of thing. So I thought maybe I want to go into kids' interior design. So I was thinking about that. And then at the time, my cousin, Darko, who is, he's an extreme creative, mind-blowingly creative, this guy. Anyway, so he's a graphic designer background, and he was looking at starting a business as well, and we were both brainstorming for each other, what can we do? And then we kind of looked at each other and said, well, why don't we start a business together? So that was September 2014, and October, November, December, we sort of worked night and day and launched our Lil Spaces business in December 2014, so 2.5 months later. And so we started on a Shopify website, and we launched with a pop-up shop in my double garage. So we timed it for Christmas, and I said, let's do a pop-up shop, because one of our principles of our business was we want to be location independent. We didn't want a bricks and mortar store, but we still wanted a physical presence. We just wanted to, pop up here and there, and not necessarily even just in Australia. So this was our vision, when we were going through our and everything. And we thought, okay, let's do the pop-up in our garage. Got together with a few friends who were other creatives. I turned our garage into a beautiful rustic winter wonderland. And by the way, it's summer, Christmas, so we had fake snow and just designed it. I thought about all the 4, senses, so visual, audio. We had Michael Bublé playing. We had food, and then one of my girlfriends, Roz, she sold candles, so we had the, the olfactory, the scent part of it as well, and people just loved it. But the genesis of the cloud lights, I guess, was there because we started off with just prints. So Darko and I, we designed these prints together, and then by then we had wholesaled certain products like our the Miffy light from Mr. Maria. So we imported those from overseas, and also, things from Paris, and just really interesting, stylish decor products. And so in the pop-up shop, we kind of unveiled all of that. And we had no money, so we bootstrapped everything. So we letterbox drops with flyers telling people to, come to the pop-up shop. I sort of went out and got a lot of press, started off locally, saying, hey, have a launch and with a pop-up shop. And we had heaps and heaps of people come to the shop.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. We only opened for maybe an hour and a half a night. But, lots of people turned up, and I made the cloud lights as part of the decoration for the pop-up shop. But every night people were saying, oh, can we buy those? And it was like, no, they're just decorations. They're just decorations. And at the end of the pop-up shop, I think in January, I sort of, through my Facebook group, said, hey, these are really popular. I'm giving them away. So if you're interested, tag a friend and tell me where you would hang it. And I had, I think, over 700 entries for them.
Wow.
200 people, because every time they tag someone, they get like an extra entry.
Yeah.
And so won 3 winners, and basically people were saying, hey, if I don't win, I'll pay you. Will you make it for me? So Darko and I had a chat, and we're like, well, this wasn't really the direction we were thinking. But what do you think? I enjoy making them. And Darks was like, hey, as long as you're happy to make them, I can't make them. But, I'll help you with it. So, like packing and all of that stuff. So, but basically when we decided we were going to make it, we thought, okay, well, as one of our principles is quality, craftsmanship, stylish, all of that. So we thought, okay, we can't make it just how everybody else makes it, how are we going to make it different? So, then went on the journey of sourcing natural fibre, which was so difficult. It's not that easy to source natural fibre, believe it or not. And then we had to try so many different ones. And then, the safety side of things. So is it going to be safe enough? But then, it's a single LED that produces no heat. We explored with the regulation boards and things like that. It's like, what certifications do we need? So, had to go down that track as well. And as it turned out, because it was battery operated, it's not considered an electrical item. So anyway, but even, and then we thought, okay, how about, and this was Darko's idea, he was like, what if we projected something onto the ceiling, like a moon and stars? So we then prototyped that and started exploring that, and then incorporated that into it, and we kind of launched that in, I think, March 2015, and that's when we sort of decided to put it on Etsy, because that was a totally handmade thing. And we were able to do the prints as well. So, once you completed the manufacturing, because with the prints we had to get a local printer to print it for us. So anyway, so yeah, we sort of opened our Etsy shop in, I think it was late March, but it was early April that we, made our listings live and things like that. And we got a first sale within 2 days, I think.
Whoa. Now, when you first got on Etsy, there's so much I want to ask you about from your story. When you first got on Etsy, obviously you were already aware of it. Did you do any type of research into like how to get found on Etsy and how to set up your shop, or did you just jump on it because you knew that was a marketplace for handmade products?
Yeah, well, we weren't even, long story short, we just jumped on it and sort of didn't even do any research on the tags. So, we just looked at, okay, well, if somebody was looking for this, what kind of things would they type into the search box, like as if you were searching on Google. And so, it's a nightlight, nursery light. So we just kind of looked at what's the function of it, and it can be a gift, and sort of went from there with the tags.
Wow. Okay.
And title as well. But our first sale wasn't the lights; it was one of the prints. So
okay.
And
no, go on.
Yeah. No. No, you go.
So you opened with the lights and the prints.
Together, yeah.
Okay. So when you first opened, I don't even know where I want to start. So most people like who sell on Etsy, typically they will start with an Etsy shop and then folks branch out and then they branch off to their own website. But you did it in the reverse, because Etsy wasn't originally on your radar from the way it sounds. And then when you developed your own handmade products, then you came onto the platform. Do you think there was an advantage to doing it that way, to having done the pop-up shop and having your own independent website and then coming onto Etsy, do you think that there was an advantage for you having already been out there?
In terms of I don't necessarily think so. So basically with our website, it cost us money. So it cost us, we customized the website. So it cost $1,000 to do that. It took a lot of time and effort. So we've got a Shopify website, but we wanted to, change things around. So we bought a template, but then we wanted to customize it. So it didn't have a blog, so we wanted to add the blog. And so we sort of contacted the person that created the theme, and then he customized it for us. So it was a lot of back and forth. But then we needed the website because I want, my vision for Lil Spaces is online decor, kids decor destination. So more than just my products, I want people to have beautiful things, to create inspiring spaces for their children. So I can't do that alone. Do you know what I mean? And there are such beautiful, high quality products from small makers, small medium makers. So I sort of want to have all their things on our shop as well. So that's why we had to have, I guess, our website. So there was no going around that. But yeah, so from that perspective, yeah, I think there's probably an advantage there. But if I was just, like starting small, like with my own handmade products, I wouldn't start off with a website. I would start off with Etsy for sure, because it's so such low cost to get into. It's just a bit of time and 20 cents to list the product. I mean, you don't have to pay anything until you sell. So that is it just makes it so achievable and accessible, and you can just try different things. There's no barriers.
So having experienced both running your own independent website and selling on Etsy, would you advise that person who is currently selling on Etsy? We know it's easier, it's more cost effective, but at some point, do you think it's worth it to have your own real estate on the internet?
I think only the person can answer that question, because everyone's different and it depends on what their goals are, in my opinion. So if they want to grow a big business and, hope that that's what they want to do solely one day, I think it's definitely worth having your own website. But if it's a bit of a side hustle, you enjoy it, it's more of a hobby, and, that's kind of your goal, I don't think that there's a need.
Okay. So you mentioned that you have a Shopify website now, and that you had it customized by the person who built the theme. How does Shopify work? So you essentially buy a package and then buy a design that somebody else has made, and then what? So
basically, there's free. They've got free templates that you can use, or you can have a bought template. So we bought a template for $55 US, and then which was kind of closely aligned to, what we wanted, like aesthetically. And there were certain things that we wanted to change on it. So we contacted that developer and we said, okay, it doesn't have a blog. We really want a blog, and we want it to look like this, and we want to have the social media buttons at the top, like over here, rather than down there, and we wanted this and that and the other. So basically Darko handled that side of it, because him being a graphic designer, he is very, very specific with what he wants where. So the line was too thick, so he wanted it to be thinner. Doing all those little things. So he's a creative director at work, and he can see if something is out 1 pixel. He's that specific. So we would talk about how we wanted it, and then he'd draw it all up and then send it to the developer and say, this is how I want it to work. And we had to make sure that, it worked on all mobile devices. So, I mean, Shopify is already mobile ready, but with the templates, you still have to make sure that, it's coming up the way we want it on iPhone, iPad, desktop, all of that. So, okay. But you can, it's like WordPress, I guess. You can a free theme, or you can have a bought theme, and then you can customize further if you want, or you don't have to. But Shopify comes with all the checkout and everything. Okay. They've got various plugins. So like for our reviews, we just use a free plugin for the reviews.
Oh, okay.
So it's very similar to WordPress. It's pretty easy. But if you want, like certain things changed on the look and feel, if you don't know HTML, you will need someone to help you with that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but you can change, get someone from Upwork or a freelancer to help you with it. So, because later on down the track, I actually hired a freelancer through Upwork because I wanted to add like a downloadable PDF function to my blog.
Oh, okay.
So I just worked with someone through there, and who I just looked at reviews. He had really good reviews. He spoke really good English, and he gave me lots of advice, and yeah, it worked really well.
You answered my next question before I could even ask it, was how did you find good people to work with, like, to help do the customizations? But Upwork is what you said. And for anyone who doesn't know, Upwork is a website where you can go and hire, how would I explain it? Hire people to do freelancers, yes, to do tasks for you, anything from writing to technical tasks. And it's not like Fiverr where, it's just $5. I mean, I guess in some cases you can say how much you're going to pay, and other cases you can find someone and they'll have their rates, but you get people who are more professional in whatever skills they have, and you can hire them to do projects for you, like what Shah did.
Yeah, it worked really well for me.
Yeah. So. And so you selected the person you did based on the reviews that they got. I think that's also important too, in how you choose who you're going to work with.
Definitely, and their specialization as well. So when you look through, so you can pretty much post your work and people will, I suppose, bid for it. But I didn't do it that way. I went and looked at people's profiles. So I don't know how other people do it, but I wanted to look for someone that specialized in Shopify. Oh, so okay. I don't even know how I found that. It must have been a search function. So I looked through that and I looked at the different rates. I looked at all the reviews, how long they'd been on there. So this guy, it seemed like he hadn't been on there for too long, but he had repeat customers. And so repeat customers told me that he did a good job. That's the best review you can have, right? So that's how I chose him. And people kept saying that his English was perfect. So because you've got a lot of people from overseas, and communication, like if they don't speak wonderful English, communication can be a little bit more difficult, which was the case with our original Shopify tailoring, I guess, because the person that created the theme that we asked to, customize our website originally, I think was based in Asia somewhere. So it was a little bit difficult. There were some miscommunications and we had to do things. So I wanted, so when people said with this particular person his English was really good, that was one of the drawing factors for me as well.
Yeah. Okay.
But it worked out well.
Yeah, well, that makes good sense. I know when I've gone on Upwork, I haven't found a freelancer the way you did. I know you can do that, but in the past I would put I think they call it a job or a posting, like say what I want and what I was looking for. But one of the ways I used to filter, and I did it that way because if there was only a certain amount I wanted to pay, then I only wanted people who were willing to do the task for that amount. And so one of the things that I did was I included a question, 2 questions actually, because you can do that. You can put some screening questions. And I would ask for something random. And one of the questions I asked was, tell me about a vacation that you took that really impacted you, or something like that, or that you would like to take, and why, just so that I get to see what their command of the English language is, and how well they express themselves, how good their grammar is, and if they make spelling errors or grammatical errors. For me, that was a way of weeding out who I wanted to work with, because then I knew if they could write something cohesive and that made good sense, and show that they had thought it through, and also that they had actually read that they needed to answer those questions, then it filtered down the pool of people I needed to reach back out to and do the back and forth with.
What a creative way to do that. I might steal that one day.
Oh, take it. Now,
yes, I didn't. I knew that you could sort of put your job up, but I didn't. So I just I did it the opposite, I guess, as in I knew exactly who I wanted to go to, and then they have their rates on there, so I knew what I was prepared to pay. So yeah.
So the other thing I want to talk about with your Shopify website, and by the way, we're calling it her Shopify website. It's lilspaces.com. I'm going to have a link directly to it. But if you want to hop over there right now and take a look while you're listening, it's lilspaces.com. So one of the things you have on there is you now have a secure site. So you have the HTTPS. And I recently had to do this, but I want to talk about how you had that set up. Did that come with your Shopify site? Was it already a secured site, or did you have to buy these, what they call an SSL certificate separately?
Now, when I first had the Shopify site, it wasn't a HTTPS, but then when that became available, Shopify just sent me a notification saying this is available now, and I think I just had to add some sort of a HTML code to somewhere in the website, and I got the same guy from Upwork to do that for me. It cost me like $20.
Really?
Yeah, like for him, because I don't even know if it costs me that much. It was he was doing other bits of work for me, and he just did it. Like he said, okay, you just need to copy and paste a code. So Shopify did it all. You just had to paste a code from memory. Yeah, so that's a great thing with, big platforms like Shopify, and they just do everything for you. Okay. And there's 24/7 support as well if you really need it.
Well, that's really good to know, because when I did mine, oh my goodness, I had a headache for like 3 days. It wasn't that it was hard to do. It's not hard to do, but you do kind of need to know what you're doing. And so for me, I have a WordPress site. So I bought the certificate from my website host. And then, like you said, there's some code they tell you to install somewhere. But I thought I could do it. Well, I couldn't. Or at least I thought I did. And then, it never showed up. And so then I called them, and, we went back and forth, and they're like, oh, we see it. I'm like, but I don't see it. And, it was on some pages and it wasn't on others. And they're like, oh, but we see it. I'm like, I still don't see it. And then if you look, I use Apple products, and Safari doesn't yet tell you whether or not the site you're on is secure. But if you use Google Chrome, it will tell you. And what was kind of what started to annoy me was that I would go to my website and then Google Chrome would say, oh, we can't verify the security of this website because I didn't have the HTTPS. And I was like, it's mine. I know it's secure. So then it made me feel like if Google Chrome is telling everybody out there that we can't verify the security of the site, that makes me look, sleazy, like
dodgy.
It makes me look dodgy. So I call them, I'm like, you have to fix this now. Google is telling people that my site is fishy. Anyway, so
No, so with Shopify, I didn't have to pay anything extra.
That's just good.
Yeah. So,
Okay. So we talked about the balance already between running an Etsy shop and your e-commerce website. Which one of those right now takes more time and effort?
I would say that definitely my Shopify site takes more time and effort, only because I'm trying to grow that. And, you might have a Shopify site, but traffic doesn't automatically come. And, so you've got to look at the SEO and all of that side of things. And it takes a lot more time, I think, with Shopify. Whereas with Etsy, the people are already on the platform because they're looking to buy something.
Yeah.
And provided you've got your tag words and title tags and everything there, and they find your product, the buying intent is already there. So that's almost like easy,
Yeah.
Whereas to get people to your own website, oh my God, that's not easy at all.
I know. Now, does Shopify have built-in SEO tools, or are there plugins that you can use to help improve?
They've got things like, when you say SEO tools, what do you mean specifically?
Well, tools that help you optimize your shop or your listing or even the website, maybe the blog portion of the website, so that it shows up in search. And I'll give you a specific example. So I have a WordPress site, and there's a tool I use, which honestly, it might have been more useful in the past. I don't know if it's as useful today as it was. It's called Yoast, and it's a plugin. And if you put the keywords of what an article you're writing about or a blog post you're writing about is, it will assess the post after you've written it and tell you how SEO viable it is. Basically, it will tell you if you've used the keyword enough times, if you've used the keyword in the proper places so that the search engines can pull up your post when somebody searches for that topic that you're writing on. And so you can optimize it to the T so that, every T is crossed and is it cross your T's? And every T is crossed and every I is dotted. Or you can do it to, a midway point where you're like, okay, it's good enough. People will eventually find the article. So I'm wondering if Shopify offers, or maybe not Shopify, but if there are vendors that have something similar for Shopify sites.
I'm not sure. I haven't actually looked into plugins like that specifically for Shopify. I think I sort of do things like that a bit more manually, I guess. Mm-hmm. And because we were talking, I don't write a lot of blog posts, so I haven't done it so much for the blogs. But for my product pages and that, I do try and optimize, but more manually. So, I'll think carefully about the title tags, the title. So that's, what the Google robots crawl through. So, having your keyword towards the front of the sentence or the title, things like that. And also making the description so people want to click on it, just in terms of the click-through rate. Having your H2 headings with the keyword in it, and, having your keyword in the first I think it's like 150 words, things like that. So I sort of manually think through that, but at the same time, I don't write to specifically to optimize. I mean, I think about it, but I don't write just for SEO. I write for people
Yes.
as well. So, and so I do things like that from an SEO perspective. But one of the key things that I try and do is the link building. So it's how many, domains, credible domains that are relevant to your topic that you're talking about is pointing to you. That's one of the Google ranking factors.
Yes.
So I try and do a lot of outreach and from the perspective, not only from the perspective of link building, but also press. So I think they go hand in hand. And when you work with bloggers and things like that, when you get one, you get the other, which is fantastic.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's something that I know we don't talk about too much, but link building as a way to help one, when more sites that are relevant to what you're talking about link to you, it does help to increase your traffic, and it gives you a better ranking in search engines. How much time and effort does it take to really go after links?
You know what? It takes, like for me, I think it takes an incredibly a lot of time. I mean, other people eventually, like you can pay VAs and things to help you do that, but I customize every email. So, but then because of that, I get a lot more people. I don't ever do, send out like 500 emails to 500 people kind of thing. I'll sort of look through who I would, which pages I would want to be featured on, that kind of thing, and then I'll do a specific short email to them. So it does take a lot of time, but I think it's just one of those things that you have to put the time in, unfortunately.
Yes.
Or fortunately.
Yes.
So your audience might be interested in backlinko. So there's a guy named Brian Dean. So I follow him and a lot of his stuff. He's a genius on SEO and link building. He's got incredible free content as well. And, he talks about you can't just publish and pray. He talks about a publish and pray approach. You could, yes, content is king. You can create the most wonderful content, but once you publish it, if you don't do anything to actually get people to see it, well, nothing's going to happen. It could be the best content on the market.
Yeah, I think I've done a lot of publish and pray.
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why I haven't, pushed for my blog, because I can create things, but if I don't have time to actually market it, what's the point? Yeah. So it's like I think I have like a prioritized checklist of things that I'm working through. So I think I was telling you earlier that I've come up with a bit of a strategy, and this is through, the day job that so I work in government, and I look at design processes, so strategic processes. So I think I've got that analytical mind as well. And one of the things that I've broken up Lil Spaces into is I've got a little, I suppose it's almost like a pathway. So it's called Debra, Debra. So, D stands for discover. So how do people discover Lil Spaces? E is for engage. How do I engage with people who have discovered Lil Spaces as well as, my audience? B is the buying. B is for buy. So they eventually purchase. So between E and B could be, I don't know, a week. It could be 6 months. It doesn't. And then R is once they've purchased, it's the review, refer, remember, and return. So, you can, and then the last bit is advocate, which is the A. So this is where they become fans. And so basically by breaking it down like that, I do a little bit of work on each part of it. And again, being a solopreneur, I wish I could just go all out, but, I just have to work through bit by bit, but I try and, work on different bits.
I like how you broke it up because for starters, I've not seen or heard anyone else structure how they're going to tackle the different aspects of running their business that they can this way. And so I just want us to go into it a little bit more just so that we can understand and someone listening can see how he or she can apply that to what they're doing. So in the discovery phase, the D, is that about how we want our customer, our perfect or, target customer to discover us, or is that us discovering them or who we're trying to reach?
We get discovered.
Okay, how we get discovered. And so under the D, the kinds of tasks that we would tackle in that would be what?
So I sort of broke it down further. So in the D, I've got, so this is about people discovering us, and it can happen in a digital way or a physical way. So under digital, I look at, how can people discover you digitally? So it could be direct traffic via Google search. So, to your website or Etsy shop or whatever it may be. It can be through all the different social media platforms. So, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, whichever one. It could be through, blogs and influencers and different social feeds. So, people might will discover me through your podcast, for example. And then, there's things for physical products like ours, gift guides and things like that, online magazines. So basically around Christmas, there's lots of people are looking at putting together gift guides. So I'll approach lots of different places within my niche to offer, would you be interested in featuring our cloud lights or prints or something. So that's from a digital perspective. From a physical, you've got of course, the word of mouth from people who have already purchased from you. There's features in physical magazines, market stalls and pop-up shops. And so I kind of look at it from like physical as well as digital.
Okay. All right. So then we get the customer and we engage with them, and the engagement is basically us introducing that person to our brand, to our product and what we do, and trying to get them from learning about us to be. Is that right? Which is buy.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So basically, So discoverers, they've just found out about you. So they're not necessarily going to buy straight away, or they may, if they're already looking and you've got exactly what they're looking for. But that engagement, I suppose, I do that through social media. So Facebook and Instagram is how I engage. I know that email, people say you have to build your list, and the email side of it, I mean, that is something on my to-do list, and I'm very naughty in that I don't actively try and get subscribers, which I know I should, but that's only because I don't really send out emails, because I kind of think, okay, well, what am I going to be talking about? And if I can't do something well, I don't want to do it at all. So, I mean, I do plan to do it, but I need to think through, well, how can I actually add value? Because what's the point of sending out something that they're just going to delete? I delete emails all the time, every day.
That's true.
Yeah.
I do too. And I do have an email list and people join it. But yes, I feel extremely guilty every time I see people come on, not because I don't want them on my list. I do. And I want to provide, every time I send something out, I want it to be valuable. I want people to actually read it, or when they see something from me in their email, want to open it and read it and not ignore it or delete it. But I, like you, I don't really actively, try and grow that list. I do it because I know everyone says you should. And then when I do send something out, which is so infrequent now, the internet marketers would say I'm just messing up big time. I try to make it worth opening. I wouldn't want someone to see it and say, oh yes, I need to unsubscribe. I don't want that to be the first thought that someone gets when they see an email from me.
I know exactly what you mean. Like, I rather send, I mean, they say that you have to be consistent, and at the moment I just don't have the capacity to be consistent with emails. I just haven't really done it yet. But when I do it, I probably will only do one email a month, because I don't want to fill people's inboxes and bombard people,
Yeah. And even that is its own consistency if it's once a month. And I should determine to do something similar. But I've gotten to the point where I only send an email if I have something to say, like something out of the ordinary to say, I should say.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we get to B, the buy. That's the easy one. That's the fun one. That's where we want to be. So we have their money. Do we need to do anything other than just take their money in the buy phase?
I guess it depends on how far the buy phase goes, I guess. I'm talking more than just the checkout part of it. So with, Etsy and Shopify, they make it really easy for the user to do, go through the checkout phase. So there's not a lot that we need to worry about, I guess, in terms of that. So you want to make things like shipping and things easy. But the buying part of it for me is it's also the unboxing experience and the whole how you interact with them once they've bought. So once they've hit the buy button, is it like, okay, cool, I've got your money and nothing more? It's about, well, what do you do at that point? Do you send an email? So generally I'll send a thank you email. I'll say something along the lines of, thanks very much for choosing my little shop to buy from hundreds of shops. I really appreciate that. And then I'll tell them, because generally, I'll be hand making them, so how long it will take.
Okay.
Then, that I will email them again when I send it to them. I'll ask them, okay, so what you've paid doesn't cover insurance. Do you want to pay extra for insurance? That kind of thing as well. And then once I've made it, then I will send them another email saying, hey, I've just shipped it. Here's your number. And here's a video. If it's a Cloudlight buyer, I've put together a video of how they can refluff the Cloudlight when they, get it, take care of it, that kind of thing. So I'll send that to them. And I will ask them to let me know once they've received it.
Okay.
And then they generally do let me know. If they don't, I'll do a bit of a follow-up saying, hey, did you receive it? What did you think? That kind of thing. And, if they like it, that kind of thing. So then they'll write back to me generally saying, yep, I've received it. Generally, everything's gone okay with it. They love it. They've hung it up. Then I'll ask for photos and if I can share it on social media. So
nice.
So I'll share, user-generated content. And at that point, if they haven't already, I might ask for a review.
Okay.
If they like it. So I don't do that all the time, but sometimes, like, if, you can kind of gauge it with who you're not going to offend, because I don't want to bombard them, because I think Etsy does send them review things as well.
Yes.
But sometimes people will, what I do find though is a lot of people will set up an Etsy account just to buy something, and then they won't even log into it. So when I'm trying to send them Etsy conversations, they're not responding. So I'll generally send it to, because I have a lot of international customers and Etsy doesn't collect their phone numbers, and with the shipping companies, they require phone numbers. So I generally have to contact them every time anyway and ask them for their phone numbers for the courier company.
Oh, okay. So you reach out to them by email or through the Etsy convos?
I'll do both
Okay.
because, 70% of the time, I don't know if it's just, unique to my customers, but they've only signed up on Etsy to buy something once or twice. They don't have accounts and they don't check their account. So they respond to me more on the email, but because I used to just send it on the convos and nothing would come back. Yeah. So.
Okay. All right.
But yeah,
So
also the unboxing. So once they actually have received it, like I'll add a thank you note and things like that. So it's that whole part of it, I guess.
yeah. So giving them a good experience with the purchase and just nurturing them through the sale. All right. So then they have this good experience with purchasing from you and the products that they've bought. And so should they naturally be, I know you said sometimes you'll ask for a review, but the point of the buying experience is to elicit that review and hopefully a referral and to friends and family, and then make sure they remember you so that if they have a need to buy that product again, they come back to you because they remember what the experience was like. That's our R.
Yeah, so that's definitely the answer. I've got review, refer, remember, return. So that, I suppose, is how you treat them in that buy part of it. So, sometimes I'll include, if they buy more than, if they buy a few products, I might include like a little gift for them, things like that. Yeah, and then, just interacting with them, and like if I share the photos that they've sent through on social media, I'll tag them, things like that. I mean, I've got this idea, which I really want to do, is I wanted to create room tours of my clients' nurseries for my blog. So, like, because a lot of my customers, they create the most gorgeous nurseries. So, some of them I'd love to say, hey, I'd love to do a room tour if you could take some photos and, talk me through your process of coming up with it and all your favorite pieces and where you get them from, and actually tag all the different businesses in it as well. So that's one of my plans for the blog. So things like that. I think maybe other mums who might be wanting to create beautiful spaces for their children might be interested. So.
Absolutely. And then to give them everything in one place. So if there's some item in that room that you're featuring that somebody sees, to be able to just click on it and then go to the shop that person bought it from, or the website that sells it, is
exactly.
It's great. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And, so it would, I suppose I'd have to think of, I'm now brainstorming with you, as in like, would you have to give them more of an incentive, or is being featured an incentive enough, that kind of thing? Because I go back to after I created Helena's nursery, I was so proud of it. I loved it. And, I reached out to a few of the blogs and they're like, yeah, for sure, we'll feature it. And, they didn't pay me or anything, but the fact that I was featured and I was able to, the vanity part of it, I guess, tell all my friends and show them was, reward enough.
Yes. And that's what I was thinking was, I think just the honor of being featured is good enough, because what they were doing, they were going to do anyway, but you're highlighting what they did and just really acknowledging the time and the effort and the creativity that they've put into that. And I would say, think about when you were featured on Apartment Therapy. I shouldn't say I'm sure, but my guess is they probably didn't pay you, but you enjoyed the exposure because it was something you were proud of and proud to show, all their readers that, I did this and they think it's worth featuring.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, No, that was yeah, so that's kind of what I was thinking in terms of, and if I was going to do an email newsletter, I mean, things like that, it's just about trying to figure out, well, what would me as a mum, what would I want to see?
Yeah.
What
Yes.
what's worth me opening an email?
Yeah.
That thing. So, I mean, there's other things like with Helena, we do crafts and things all the time. So I'm always developing little games, little learning games and things for her just out of paper because, it's easy
Yeah.
and cheap. So I was like, oh, well, I might be able to put some of this stuff on the blog and other mums might just want to download and it might be useful for them. So that's kind of another idea as well. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And you know what I like, Shah? Well, a couple of things. One, by featuring moms who have bought your product and, highlighting what they've done, that's pretty much kind of user generated content because it's going to be less effort for you because you'll be asking them questions and they're basically telling you what they did. And so that I think might be a bit easier to produce than say if you were to come up with blog posts from scratch about, home decor or what have you. That's number one. And the second one is I just lost my train of thought. It had to do with the second thing you said. I don't remember now.
Oh, that was, do you mean about like the little DIY type thing?
No.
Okay.
Sorry. But I will say this. I am so glad we have Helena on the audio because folks get to hear her.
Sorry about that.
No, not
You
at
hadn't
all.
heard it.
Nope, not at all. I'm not taking that out. She's on the podcast now. Okay.
And another thing I wanted to add was I think, if it's like a room tour and say, the customer is talking about, the 8 key things in the room, like the lighting and the bedding and like the toys or whatever it is. And when I'm actually linking to other websites of the business owners of, those products, they'll probably share that post too because they're part of the room tour. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. You're right.
So you get to collaborate with like other like really cool businesses as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, now I remember what I was going to say. And I like that the ideas you're coming up with are not something that you read or heard somewhere else. It's something that based on your business and what you're doing is going to work for you. That's one of the takeaways that I feel like I'm going off track a little bit, but I'll make this quick. One of the takeaways that I got from doing the Social Media Marketing World Conference was a lot of people have a lot of formulas and quote strategies that have worked for them. And I'm not debunking anything anybody has said worked and they were successful at, but I think especially in the creative businesses, our businesses and what we're doing are so unique and so different that it's hard to follow cookie cutter formulas and expect that they'll work exactly the same way for us. I think if you run a creative business, you need to get creative in how you do things. Yes, blog. Everybody is blogging, but how is your blog going to be creatively unique and serve your market? Okay, I think that's the point I was trying to make. I hope I made it. I don't know if I did.
No, you did, definitely. And I think you just got to do what's right for you. And I think, I'll look at all these strategies and I'll take the pieces that work for me and try and retrofit it or apply it. And the things that I don't think necessarily work, I'll sort of cast aside, but at least, they're in my mind and I know about them, but it might not be right for me in my business.
Yep, that's true. And yes, and that's not to say that because someone has what seems to be a formula that it's, that it should be disregarded. I think for the most part, the elements of the formula, will be valid and can work. Different elements will work for different people. But I think what I would shun is trying to replicate exactly what somebody else has said worked for them, when what you're doing is not exactly what they're doing.
Exactly. And you're not them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there are two more big things I want to talk with you about. But before we do that, let's touch on A, which is advocate. And this is where we turn that buyer into a raving fan who is going to become our evangelist.
Mm-hmm. So I guess this is the one where I'm thinking, if I did things like with the blogs and, with the room tours and things, and I make it about my customers and about them, then there's a greater chance of them becoming an advocate. Do you know what I mean? So
Yes.
like when I was featured on Apartment Therapy and Interiors Addict and Her Canberra, like I shared it with all my friends. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes.
and as a result of that, most people know who Apartment Therapy is, but, these blogs got discovered as well.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. So I think it's about that and becoming that advocacy part of it. I don't think it's one thing that you can do to make, your fans, your customers become advocates. I think it has to be in everything that you do from discovery all the way to the end.
Okay.
It's all the little things that make the whole, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So
that is very helpful. And actually, you just created the perfect segue to one of the other things I wanted to talk about is the exposure. Now, you have gotten some really good exposure, and a lot of it too. You've been featured in BuzzFeed. You mentioned Interiors Addict, Babyology. You have a whole page on your website, which again is lilspaces.com. That's LILSPACES.com. And so you have a whole media page that lists just all the different media outlets that you've been featured on. Let's talk about getting that kind of exposure.
that's actually only about 50% of it. I haven't put all of them on it because a lot of them have been on the Cloud Nights, and I just didn't want media page full of Cloud Night feature after Cloud Night feature. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But I still think you should.
I don't know. But yeah, so a lot of it, I guess, when we launched, again, doing the pop-up shop, it was something novel. So we wanted to do something novel because with press, I think you've got to give them an angle. Otherwise, why would they want to write about you?
Yes.
So by using that as a jumping off point, I just contacted a lot of different local media. And from there, when I contacted more of the national, international media, it was like, hey, we were featured in this. And you always try and give them a bit of an angle. So the Cloud Lights were really cool because they're a cool product that people want to write about. Mm-hmm. So I kind of use that. The other place that I use for call outs is people would know about Harrow, Help a Reporter Out.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And there's one called Source Bottle as well.
Sorry, how do you spell that?
SOURCE, Source, Bottle, BOTTLE.
Okay.
So I kind of use those as well. So I'm always monitoring those, and if there's anything that kind of relates to, what I'm doing, I'll sort of send them off the pitch, but always a customized pitch. Okay. And I get a pretty good hit rate on those actually. So I've been featured on heaps of gift guides.
Oh, I see.
But BuzzFeed, they found me through Etsy. So the wonderful thing about Etsy is all these blogs discover you, like big blogs, and they actually link to the Etsy store because Etsy pays them affiliate commissions too. So when they feature Etsy businesses, and if anybody buys, I guess, they get paid affiliate commissions. So, I found out about that by accident because I was featured through Etsy on a blog called This Is Why I'm Broke, and they contacted me and said, hey, we're going to feature you on this day. And then I said, would you be able to link to my lilspaces.com website as well as the Etsy shop? And he came back and said no, because we only do the Etsy shop because they pay us and we get an affiliate commission. And that's how I found out. So, but yeah, BuzzFeed, they got discovered through Etsy for so many different things. And also because we entered the Etsy competition, the
Etsy Design Awards. Yes, Awards. I was going to bring that up. Right.
Yeah, in 2015, Darko and I thought, why don't we, enter under new talent? And yeah, we were selected as a finalist, and we didn't win, but the fact that we were selected as a finalist was like winning. The fact that,
of course.
The judges were, the head curator of the Melbourne Museum, and, the chief editor of Inside Out magazine, chief editor of this and that and the other. And to think that, oh my God, these people actually think that your product is pretty good to be able to, to select you out of thousands of entries. And we were just blown away completely.
Yeah. And you're like, and they're not even related to me.
No, I know. That was just crazy. And that kind of, I used that to generate more press. So this is where momentum was so important. So you do one thing and then you get that, and then you use that as a stepping stone to get the bigger media.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I couldn't keep the momentum up. We had to really slow it down because we had our day jobs as well.
Yeah.
So we couldn't kind of let it go too out of control, because the handmade nature of Etsy businesses is you can only have two hands to make
Scaling can be a problem with exposure.
Yeah, scaling. It was a huge problem.
So I think there's some encouragement in that for anyone who is looking for exposure and to promote, to get their products in front of larger audiences. One, don't overlook physical media, but also once you get the snowball rolling, to stay on, to keep the momentum going. Do you think that when you're ready to, you'll be able to again start that momentum and just keep it going?
You know what? Like, to be honest, I'm finding it a lot harder now to get the momentum back up, because after physically, I got to a point where I couldn't keep up at all with the demand, because I had, I had a job, I had a 3-year-old, we were building a house, and I was going crazy. So I literally, I didn't put it on vacation mode, but I put the prices up, and I also stretched the lead times out just to slow things down. And at one point I even put it on vacation mode for a while. And after that, it was really hard to get back up. So, the sales are not as great as they were previously. So, but to get the momentum back up, I've got a few things up my sleeve. I've got some new improvements, and like introducing new things. I'm writing a book at the moment, a children's book, to actually go with the cloud lights. So I won't go too much into it, but it's a book that ties in really nicely with the product, but it also solves a problem that a lot of mothers have with toddlers.
That is
So
so great. Okay, you have to come back. We're not done with this conversation, but you have to come back when that's all launched and done, and let's talk about how that goes.
sure. And the other thing that I'm doing is I'm looking at getting a bit more high tech with the cloud lights as well. So doing lots of research into it. And this is where my partner, Mitch, has been wonderful because he's a builder, but his hobby is computer programming and electronics. So been working on so certain electronic parts, and we're prototyping lots of different things to make the cloud lights a little bit more high tech. So I want to launch the version 2.0, I suppose, with the book later on in the year together, and see if I can, start again.
Yeah, well, that is exciting. I'm excited to hear that.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes, but I'm excited about that too.
Oh, good deal. Okay, so it's a date. You're coming back on.
Okay.
Now, before we move too far away from this, I just want to, for anyone who isn't familiar with Harrow and Source Bottle, I'm not familiar with Source Bottle, so I'm going to have you explain what it is. But Harrow it stands for, you said, help a reporter out. And so reporters, people who want to write articles, are looking for experts or people who know about specific topics. And if you as the person who wants the exposure has knowledge in a particular area and there's somebody who wants to write about that, you connect with that person. And so they get an article, you get exposure. Did I summarize that correctly?
Perfectly, yeah. And Source Bottle is exactly the same.
Okay.
And but I don't know about Harrow, but on Source Bottle you can actually put a call out for free as well. So if you were going to write a blog post and you had a particular topic and you wanted some experts or whatever, you can put something out and people will pitch to you. And that's free as well. So you can do it both ways.
Okay. And then regarding just the momentum that you gain from this type of exposure, would you say that the lesson in this for that person listening who says, okay, I'm ready for this, I want that exposure, I want my product out there, I want to get the momentum going, is to be ready to scale?
I think so. Like, make sure you have the time, because momentum is really hard to build, and don't make my mistake where you had to build it and you had to keep pulling it back. So if I was going to do stuff again, what would I do differently? I would sort of have myself sorted so I could actually ride that wave. Our momentum started from that day one pop-up shop that launched, because after our pop-up shop I was actually contacted in the new year. Well, I was contacted during the pop-up shop, but I missed the call by a shopping centre. So in Australia we have Westfield, which is a huge shopping centre, and I was contacted by a marketing manager of one of the Westfields locally in Canberra, and she wanted me to actually come and open a pop-up shop in the centre for free.
For free? Rent free.
Yeah, rent free.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Period. But I missed that call. So
man.
But that's okay, because in January she contacted me again, and Darko and I went and met with her, and she's like, hey, we've got free space. Why don't you come and open a shop for 3 months? But I had to go back to work at that point, so I couldn't do it. So that's the kind of momentum I'm talking about. Once you get exposure, people discover you, so then other doors open. So what Darko and I ended up doing was, we talked about it. So we said to her, we just can't come and man the shop every day because we got other things. And she said, I'll put a young girl in there for you. I really like your stuff. But we went and looked at the space. It was huge. There was no way we could fill it. I'm talking, I've got photos I'll send you on my Facebook page. But what we ended up doing was, we didn't want to disappoint her either. So we said, look, we can't put our stuff in, but how about we help you create this space that you want to fill for 3 months and make it a kids activity area. So we came up with this idea where it had like a soccer field, indoor soccer field on one side. We created like a little library nook for little kids, and then they got one of our posters called Little Peeps Only printed on the wall in like 3x3 room size. It was huge. We created a little gallery which had all our posters and prints. So in this little kids area, we hung all the cloud lights. We also created another space with tables and chairs and chalkboards and play kitchens, and we created this awesome kids space that people could just use. So they paid for it all, but we came and sort of designed it and helped them put it together. And that stayed for 3 months, and we just got so much goodwill and publicity as a result of it. So, so things like that, which just keeps leading to other things. So if you're going to look at, press, and if you're serious about it, be in a position where you can actually push it, because you build from one thing to the next thing to the next thing and just don't stop.
Wow. Thank you. Yes, that's a part of exposure that we don't really hear too much about, is just the how overwhelming in a good way, but also maybe not so good if you're not ready for it, that it can be. So thank you for sharing that. It's making me rethink, what I want to do as far as promotion, and how ready I think I am for all that.
Yeah. And you just don't know what one thing really does lead to another. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also encouraging. It gives me pause, and I'm hoping that somebody else listening who really does want to get exposure also is given pause, not to not go after it, but to prepare for it and prepare for what will come.
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
With exposure, you do have to craft that story. So the story is very, very important. It's not the product that people buy into necessarily. It's the story behind the product or you.
Yeah.
So you've got to make it easy for, don't let the journalist try and figure it out. You at least give them a starting point for them to shape how they want to shape it.
Right. And speaking of the story behind the product, part of the story behind Little Spaces, you've mentioned Darko a number of times. Can we talk about that? Because you started this business together and now you're running it alone. And so can we talk about having a partner and then becoming a solo entrepreneur, and just what that journey was like, what types of adjustments you had to make to now make it work for you, but in a different way?
Definitely. So Darko, he is actually my partner's cousin, but we call each other our cousin.
Okay.
So he is my daughter's godfather. So we're really close. He's a creative, and even before the business, we just get together and brainstorm ideas, and we loved each other's company, and we just sort of drove each other's creativity when we were together. And so after Helena was born, and everything was exciting, and he developed a custom print for Helena's nursery. So that was almost like the
what ignited it?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so we started it together, but about a year into it, I think Darks was, I sensed that he wasn't into it as much, so we just had a conversation. I said, look, are you really still into this? Because, I'm kind of sensing that you don't seem to be as passionate about it as you once were. And, mind you, we were both working, and he particularly was working a full-time job as well. And so he thought about it, and, we had an honest discussion, and we're always honest with each other. And he's like, I just don't feel as passionate about it before, and so we just thought, okay, well, in that case, do you still want to be in it? Because the last thing we want is for our friendship and relationship to be affected, and for us to start resenting each other. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
So, and then, so again, you know, talked through it, thought about it, and then he's like, yeah, actually, I hadn't thought about it that way before. And so, yeah, he exited, but we still talk regularly, and I still use them as a sounding board. But the adjustment for me it was like a breakup. It was really sad. But at the same time, you know, our passions it just kind of went in different paths, I guess.
Yeah.
So, and but the most difficult thing for me was I always had someone that I can pick up the phone anytime and go, Darks, I've got this idea. And he'd do it to me as well. And then we'd sort of, you know, go off on a tangent and like dreamed really big. And also if one of us was down, the other one was there to pull each other out. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I can still do that with him now. If I'm down, I can talk to him, but it's different. It's I even though I know I can, I don't. If that makes sense, because I don't want to him.
Yeah. So when all this was going, so after this discussion and the decision that he, you know, his heart wasn't in it anymore and he was going to walk away, did you know with all certainty that you still wanted to go forward? Definitely.
And I understood exactly where he was coming from. Now, he's a 28-year-old guy, a bachelor. You know, like, why would he want to be in a kids' decor business for the rest of his life? Do you know what I mean? So when you think about it that way, it totally makes sense.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
From a design perspective, definitely. But I think, I don't know. So I think it's just, it makes sense when you look at it like that.
Yeah, it does, I guess.
For me, it's definitely my passion. So not necessarily just making cloud lights for the rest of my life, but I want to create things. So, I mean, I've made a ton of stuff, but I've just never put it on Etsy because I'm afraid that if it gets popular, I won't be able to scale because I have no time as it is. Does that make sense?
It does.
So
absolutely.
I've made cushions, I've made dolls. So ideally what I would love to do is just create and create prototypes and have someone make it for me.
I was just thinking that.
Because, you know, they would be better at sewing anyway. I mean, I can sew, but it takes me so long because I'm a perfectionist as well. Something that would take someone half an hour probably take me 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. And even thinking about that, okay, yes, that would be a way to scale. If you focused more on the design and creation part, you'd still be exercising that creativity and making, you know, creating new products, even though for practical purposes, say you do want this to grow into something big, you'd have to start outsourcing, which, you know, for some people, that's the road they want to go.
Yeah. And like for me, I mean, that's something that, you know, I really need to think about. And so, I mean, Etsy, I think, will only always be a part of my business because of that. So in terms of outsourcing, like in Australia, the wages are really high. So, you know, minimum wage is like $19.
What?
Yeah, so that's like, and you have to hire them at least part-time permanently. So if you were to hire someone casually, you're looking at about $21, something like that. So it's very, very hard to compete. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but then, yeah, I mean, I would have to look at, well, how would I do, you know, how can I do it?
So apart from losing, and I guess I use the word kind of loosely because you still, if you wanted to, could have creative discussions with Darko and what have you, but apart from losing that person that was a part of little spaces, what other adjustments have you had to make becoming, a solo entrepreneur?
Well, I guess the other thing that I've had to do is, because Darks was always the graphic designer of the business arm, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, anything to do with social media graphics and, all of that, he took care of that side of things. So, packaging, whatever, all of that side. So now I don't have that. So I try and do that myself most of the time.
Okay.
So I've had to sort of find ways. So now I use photography a lot more because I've been teaching myself to take nicer photos, so that I can do, whereas with the graphics I'm not as familiar as, whereas he's a whiz on it. So there's been slight adjustments and changes. Okay. But my biggest struggle has been that someone to bounce with, because I've got a extroverted personality, so that's doesn't mean I'm an out there person.
Right.
What that is, I'm an extroverted thinker. So for me to make sense of things, I need to speak and that loop. And when my loop has been taken away, I find it really stifling. So I speak to my partner a lot, Mitch, but I don't want to bother him after. He works like a 10-hour days on the tools, like rendering and carpentry in the sun and the cold, and the last thing I want to do is bombard him with all my ideas. So that's where I turn to groups, and I've met some great people on different Facebook groups and things.
That's a funny, we're like exact opposites in that regard, where you need to talk it through and I need to retreat and get inside my own mind and sort things out in my head.
It's funny you say that, because one of my mentors and old bosses, he's retired now. This was my, for my day job. So like we're kind of in a creative space, and I go a million miles per hour, and we were brainstorming something, and he said, I'm going out for a smoke. And I said, I'll come with you. And he goes, no, Shah, Day, I'm going out so I can get away from you for a little bit. I need to think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
okay.
Yes, I can. I can so relate to that. It's like, it's not you, it's me. I need to think. So don't come with me. Just give me room.
And it's a good thing that I don't get offended easily.
That's good. Yes, that helps. Especially with quiet types like me. I always, sometimes have to explain to people, I'm not angry, I'm not upset. I just need to be quiet because I want to think. And so if I'm not talking, it's not because anything is wrong. It's because I'm really thinking about something. I'm processing something. I'm trying to get through something, but I can only do it in my head, and I can't talk when I'm doing it. Plus I can't multitask either. So
oh my God, it's like the total opposite. Whereas I need to talk, I'm going to explode. Please, someone talk to me. I can't cope.
That's so funny. Now, earlier this year, you were selected to be one of the Etsy resolution coaches. How did that work out?
Yeah, it worked out really well. So, in part of I think one of my Etsy, like an Etsy team, Canberra Etsy team, how did I find out? It must have been through that. I found out some way. So, and then I just sent them an email saying, hey, I'm interested. And they wrote back to me, I think within 24 hours, and said, yeah, we would love to have you. I think they checked out all my accounts and everything, and it was actually a paid gig. So that was really good. Yeah. So it was a 4-week thing, so a week prior to the launch of Etsy Resolution. So it was for Australia Etsy Resolution, and they just did it on Facebook, and they had emails, modules, I think 4 different modules that went out, and the coaches had to be around to answer any questions and get the discussion flowing. And they also had like celebrity mentors.
Ooh.
3 of them, 1 a week, specifically covering different topics. So they had the first one, I think the Etsy resolution content, the first one was how to set up your shop, and then it had photography, and then how to, like get exposure, things like that. So they had different people come and mentor as well. So the mentors did, I think, 2 nights for 2 hours. So they were on the Facebook, like Ask Me Anything kind of thing.
Oh.
And the rest of the time, us coaches were helping the new guys through different questions they might have. Yeah. So
Wow.
it went well. So there was 5 other coaches, so there were 6 of us, and we also had Etsy admin who were fabulous.
So did you all have to be available at the same time in the Facebook group?
No. So basically, Etsy is so flexible. This is where they're so good, because they really understand, everyone they're just flexible. Mm-hmm. So we sort of said, they said, 2 hours a week.
Okay.
But then we were all there for, at least 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
So we had, so we could nominate which days and around which times. Mm-hmm. And so they just kind of slotted us in. It wasn't like it had to be answered within 5 minutes kind of thing, though It was, because we all kind of chipped in.
Oh, because everyone was available.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So we had our, so I did Tuesdays and Wednesdays because they were the days where Helena's in daycare. So
okay.
So I was on for like a 6-hour period, but I can do my 2 hours within that. And you could do it in half an hour blocks. You could do it in 2 hours, however.
Oh, I see. Now, if you did it for more than, if you were there responding for more than the 2 hours, did they only just pay you for 2 hours because that's all they asked for?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. They only pay you the set amount. Mm-hmm. But we didn't, like, most of us were there for way longer. We didn't mind,
Yeah.
It was like we had to be, but we just wanted to. And
that's goodwill right there. And I was going to ask you another thing. Oh, okay. So it's over now, but if people want to go and look at and maybe look at the questions that were asked and the answers that were given, are they still able to join that Facebook group or the other Etsy resolution Facebook groups? Because I know the program is over now.
Yeah. So so what they did this year, and apparently in the past they used to do it with Facebook groups, but this year they did it as a Facebook event. And the event worked pretty much the same way as the group. So I think anybody could have joined, but it's a past event. So I don't know if you should be able to still go and look at it as a past event. I don't know if you have to join but I don't think anyone's manning it. So if you have to join, there'll be no one to approve
to let
it.
you in. Okay.
Yeah. So, but what we ended up doing at the end was, okay, so this, 3-4 week program's finished, but we sort of, because this was Etsy Resolution Australia, we just directed people to different teams. You know how you have the different Etsy teams?
Yes.
So, the Sydney team, Melbourne team, Canberra team, that kind of thing. And then we also, so I actually put your podcast as one of the resources too. So
thank you.
I ended up doing a post like Shah's little black book of resources. And so I sort of referred people to Etsy Conversation podcast.
Thank you so much.
And then, other groups. So another really good Etsy group that I'm a member of is called Etsy Mums. So if you're a mum and a Etsy seller, that's a really good intimate group, like really supportive, no nastiness. Lauren Munn is the creator of that group. She listens to you too, Ijama.
I know Lauren.
Yeah, she's part of, like, I met her on your Facebook group.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
nice. I love this community that's growing and sprouting. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so there's just different support groups, and I need support groups.
I think we all do. I think we all do at some point, anyway. So for next year, if someone wants to be involved in Etsy resolution, if they do it next year, how can people make sure they get the notification so they can participate?
So if you're on the Etsy Success newsletter, I think they tell you about Etsy resolution. So you find out through that newsletter.
Okay. And I asked that like I didn't know, but I knew that. But thank you for telling us, because I did read about it and I think I signed up, but I just never participated. I was just all over the place mentally around the time it was going on. But it seemed like a good resource because I would see the emails they would send each week. And I was like, oh, I wish I could be more involved. I mean, for my own self, but so if anyone isn't signed up to the Etsy newsletter, you really need to go and sign up. There's some good stuff that comes out there. Shah, I'm so happy that you have spent this time talking with me, but before I let you go, I have two questions for you. One is, do you have an Etsy shop shout out?
I do. So the shop name is Design Jeans Studio.
Design Jeans?
Design Jeans, Genes Studio. So I met Phoenix again through your Facebook group. So we were each other's accountability partners for a little while.
You were?
Last year. We were, yeah. So she makes I think she's a graphic designer by trade, and so she makes like cards and artwork, and she puts some of her prints, quite cheeky prints, on coffee cups and totes and things like that as well. And she does like a lot of pop culture type designs as well.
Oh, that's so great. Oh, yes, I would be happy to. I'm going to link to Phoenix's Etsy shop. Again, it's Design Jeans Studio.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm so impressed that you guys were accountability partners.
For a little while, yeah. And then I think we just got distracted. We haven't caught up on accountability for a while now. Have to get in touch again. And, of course, Lauren Munn with the Etsy Mums.
Yes.
That's more of a community than a shop shadow.
Yes, and I think she's doing a fantastic job. I love that article of hers you shared.
Isn't it great?
It was so great and so honest. And this was an article that Lauren wrote. I'm not going to go into it too much, but Shah shared it in the Etsy Conversations Facebook group. I will link to it on the website as well, just so if you're not in the group, you can read the article. It was really good.
Yeah, you know how there's that buzzword with authenticity, like
yes.
Everyone talks about it, and I don't know if everyone really gets what it is, but to me the example of authenticity is that article that Lauren wrote.
Yes, and if I recall the title right away just grabs you. It's something like Why My Etsy Shop Failed or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And right away you're like, okay, what happened? And you want to hear it. And the story she tells is so relatable. It's encouraging. The title sounds like it's not, but it's very encouraging. And I'll link to it so that anyone can read that. And what's the best way people can get in touch with you if they want to connect?
Just through Convo Me. On Etsy, or just email me, and my email is Shah, SHAH, at Lil Spaces, LILSPACES.com. Alternatively, you could direct message me on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook. So lots of ways.
Okay. And I will link directly to all of Shah's social media accounts if you prefer to connect with her that way, and then I'll have her contact information on the website. Shah, thank you so much. I know this is a temporary goodbye because you will be back to talk about what you're working on right now. But thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and just what you've learned. And I think it's going to be really helpful to other entrepreneurs who are building their businesses as well. You took a very different and unique approach, and I think sometimes it's nice to just get a fresh outlook and a different perspective, because then it gets the wheels turning as to, you know, how we can do things differently, if not exactly the way you did it, but just it just fuels the creative juices. So thank you so much for sharing so freely.
And thank you so much for having me, Ijama. I feel completely honored that you wanted to have me on your podcast. I mean, I absolutely love listening to your podcast. Like I was saying before, I never miss it. And one of the reasons that I love your podcast in particular is, you know, it's almost like I get to know people like me. And I just feel like success is achievable, and we're all kind of learning from each other, and you don't have to be a superstar right off the bat.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean?
I do. Thank you for saying that. And I thank you for listening to the podcast. I will be back next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.